In this lesson, we're going to continue to draft our model or create some blockouts for our character in Blender using the digital sculpting tools and also other features that we already have in Blender like the art polymodeling, the soft polymodeling, and so on. So what we will try to do in this video, we will try to go from a really basic configuration using spheres, simple spheres, and then link them together with the different types of objects, and little by little creating some sort of, again, blockout or mannequin figure that could be our base model then to sculpt on. So we will turn this series of pieces that are assembled together into one single piece, and that's going to eventually become our base model that we will use for the sculpting. So we are still in the process of creating, designing, sketching, and creating drafts, studying our character, using the initial 2D sketches that we prepare, and then moving on into something more three-dimensional. Just to recap what we've done in the previous lesson, we saw that we can create a really basic shape using low poly modeling or art poly modeling, and then we can turn it into something more soft and curvy and organic by using the high poly or high subdivision level, so increasing the number of polygons and faces and the subdivision level, and using also soft poly modeling techniques. And then we also decided to use some sketching because we want to be more precise. So talking about defining the character and defining the sketch, I show you a process that is kind of a really simplified way you can try, if you're not like really an expert in this, try to start to define your characters with a really simple process. And you can do this in 2D and also in 3D. So in 2D, we created the character starting from little circles and then connecting those circles using simple lines. So we can call these links and nodes, or spheres and links. And then on top of that, we created kind of a more complex shape by filling out the rest of the body. So we started with a really basic structure, and then we created something more visible using spheres and other shapes. And then the final part, which will be the sculpting part, is going to be to add a lot of details and defining what it's really draft. So we did this with the 2D. We're going to do it essentially in 3D version in this video. So we're going to start with simple spheres, then add some material on top of that, and then create the base mesh for what the final character will be with the details and etc. Now, as we did in 2D, we can do it also in 3D in terms of front view and side view. So we can start with the front and then try to arrange these spheres and links also on the side. In the previous video, we also saw the technique to block out the model using the sketches and just the art poly and soft poly modeling. So in this video, we're going to see other techniques, and then we will proceed also with other in the following videos. So in this video, we're going to use these, let's call it blockouts, by assembling spheres and other shapes together. So we're still in the blockout phase. You can see also many examples on the web. You can see these have been blocked out, but not eventually merged together. But you can see how the little pieces then, they can help you to create a character, an overall character. So this is a pretty popular technique, together again with art polymodeling and soft polymodeling. And then usually we go from this to organic, which is more like realistic and more for natural animals and natural things and things like that. Now, in other 3D software like ZBrush, we have similar things like Z-spheres. So Z-spheres in ZBrush are a series of spheres connected with links, and they will create a skin in the end, that would be like the result of what we have modeled with these spheres. Now, you can find also the video course in ZBrush in the channel, or if you want to ask us for more, just write in the comments. And you can see this is a lesson from the ZBrush video course right here. So how you can essentially develop your character just using spheres and connection between the spheres. You can see these are spheres of different shapes, and depending on what you need to do, you need to be really able to place them around. So that's the tricky part, but using exercise, you can become better and better. Now the aim here is to construct something really simple, and again, which is going to be our base mesh. And also again, in ZBrush, we have mannequins. Mannequins, you can see, are really basic figures that they're also used for posing the character, but usually they are used also for, as a base mesh. So our aim is to create something really simple, which is going to look like a blockout. And again, these are like alternatives to Photoshop. Of course, if you have a sketch, it's going to be better because you can draw on top of that in 3D. And again, I like this sketch right here because it's the illustration of the process by going into something draft to something more and more complex. And this is what we're doing right now. We did it first with the 2D, and then we're going to do it with the 3D. And of course, if you create more views in 2D, you will be then more advantage to create your character. Now, this is just another technique. It's something that I like to use, but you are free to use whatever technique you think it's better for you. So you can see this is the two views that we set up in the previous video. And what I've done here is I've just created by adding a series of spheres. So let's say that I want to delete this one and I want to add it again. And right now you can see I created 3 different collections. So right now I am in the spheres collection. So I'm trying to do what I can do with the ZBrush and ZSpheres. So I'm going to do add, mesh. I can use a UV sphere. And this is going to be placed on the origin as usual, or where the 3D cursor is, which is this one here. So I'm just going to move it into position. Now, the first advice is to work preferably on the exact symmetry of the world. So the 0, 0, 0, the origin of your world, is going to be better because you can symmetrize better. You can use symmetry, mirror, and so on. You can also use it here, but it's going to be more precise there and actually better, faster. But don't worry, if you want, you can just use the symmetrize whatever you want. Now, you can see that this is a little bit smaller. But at first, I just placed these spheres. You can see on the corresponding circles that I have sketched out to create my model. So I created here the nodes and then the links using circles and lines. Here I'm going to use spheres and I'm going to use connection spheres, but I'm going to show you how you can adjust it a little bit. Now, when I first create the spheres, I can leave them all one side, but then I can also delete one side because I only need one again because I'm going to use symmetry. Now, if I switch on the side view, I can start to move them also in the side view. So remember that now you are in 3D, you are not more in 2D. So you need to consider your character in 3 dimensions. So you need to move things around. So what I'm doing here is I am trying to find out which one is this sphere, the hand, or the central body, and I'm moving into position. So you can see this is the arm, and this is the pelvis, this is the knee, so I can move it a little bit forward. Now I can always adjust it later. It's not gonna be 100% exactly like the sketch behind, but the sketch is just a reference. Okay, once the spheres are in position, I can start, for example, to scale and make them a little bit bigger. For example, for the head, I can make it bigger. And well, I will use other additional pieces. So this one here